3. Well, hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Final Boss. This is going to be Final Boss episode 7 for today on the 15th of September 2013. My name is Adam K, and tonight we have 3 guests. 3 guests tonight. It's weird, I know, but the last 2 episodes we had only 2 because we were working on the co-host situation after Jenny had to step down from the show. So it's totally fine, so we're going to fill that up with 3 guests tonight and talk about a whole bunch of 4.5 crap. And it should be tons of awesome. I don't think we have a lax of information tonight. We actually had a great show yesterday talking all about, or great call yesterday talking everything about everything tonight. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you tonight. We have from Stage Clear, we have Ellumina. Some of you may know her on the Twitch. Hi, Emily. Oh, wait, nope, there you are. Hi, Emily.
I would like to point out that this is 5.4, not 4.5.
Did I say 4.5?
You definitely said 4.5.
I'm all over the place
oh
tonight.
God,
I'm all over the place tonight.
Cataclysm.
Cataclysm. What was patch 4.5 anyway? Look that up.
Was
there was a 4.5.
I was about to say.
Was there not?
That
was only a 4.4. Damn. I'm terrible. Oh well. It's gonna be a busy night. I had to get the show together lickety split this evening. It was pretty rough. I had to get a whole bunch of stuff going. Whoa, there was the audio issue.
I was gonna say you should head over to Llarold. He's looking pretty snazzy.
Yeah,
right
I'm gonna
now.
go over here. Oh, he's getting dressed for us tonight. All right.
Like, oh my God.
Llarold is also joining us tonight. Thank you for being on the show this evening, sir.
Oh, I am very happy to be here.
Oh no. Oh well, that's a good screenshot. It's totally good. The camera cannot handle the suit jacket.
No, I guess it's not. I was required by guildies to put on a suit for at least a few seconds stream, so we'll go until I get hot. Probably about 2 or 3 minutes.
There is definitely no tie there, though. I guess that's okay.
Should have went bow tie.
I guess it's okay. And I guess
I
making
don't own any bow ties.
Yeah, making her internet viral debut over here, the lovely Anafielle. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, hey, it's great to be here.
Let me get it. Hang on a second. Oh, there we go. We talked
there
about.
I am.
There you are. Yep. No, we're good to go.
And
Over here
from Something Wicked.
Something
great to
Wicked?
be here on the show.
I always like to say something wicked is where DBM comes from. That's just be like your tagline.
Where
I think.
DBM and 2 previous guests have come from. Yep, we're
Well, yeah,
friends of
you
the show.
know. Yeah, definitely. It's awesome to have you guys on here. So, I think I had everything running smoothly. That was a little bit of a hiccup there. Oh, the suit is still on. Look at that. You didn't take it off.
Come back to me once or twice with the suit on, and then as quickly as possible, it's going to be off.
Okay. As long as as long as it's on for appearances to begin the show, you're good to go, right? As long as you meet the quota.
Gotta make people happy.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, chat is going to be off and on all night, so hopefully we have our mini bosses talking to us in Skype. We can get communication from them. But I don't want to really... If anyone has any crazy questions like that, you can always tweet at us at FinalBossTV over on the Twitters. That's super easy. Or you can go to Facebook and you can also just talk to us on the post that just went up for 10 minutes ago with the show going live. It's probably the 2 easiest way to talk to us right now, since those social media will be good. But since Worlds is happening right now for League of Legends, it's going to be a problem, and Twitch chat is probably going to break over and over and over again throughout the evening, which is bad, and it sucks for our after show, but what are you going to do? So I think tonight we're going to start off with that, I almost said it again, 5.4. 5.4, I'm testing people. 5.4 just landed last Tuesday, and I know that for a lot of us, we've been digging into tons of the content in there, and we'll get to the raid and the flex stuff and the Proving Grounds and Timeless Isle and some little bit of class changes and balance. It's going to be a little bit different episode for us over at Final Boss. Usually we break into the nitty-gritty. But since I thought there's so much to talk about that's outside of just classes in general, we're going to do a generalized episode. That's why I brought on 3 guests. So we can really talk about tons of stuff. So I think the first thing that's going to happen here, of course, is what have you guys been up to? How has 5.4 been treating you? And I'll kick this over to the suit man.
Oh, snap. Okay, so my guild, taking a cue from far better guilds, decided to instead of doing one group through normals, decided to run two sets of a mix of mains and alts that are decently enough geared through normals, and we've had moderate success with that. In particular, we've had, as you would expect, tons of mail. They call me post office because the mail never stops.
Oh god.
So shaman and hunter have been geared to the guilds. One hunter in one group, one shaman in the other group. No male users other than them, and flooded with mail. But other than that, been pretty good. Tested out flex. It was fine, and loving the Isle thus far.
Awesome. How about you, Emily?
I really enjoyed Flex so far. I actually tried running it on alt, and it was harder than I expected it to be. Otherwise, just been running through normals with one group. It was pretty easy. It took 3 nights. It took a whole night of garish wiping, which was rather miserable.
We'll talk about who was crowned king later, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
I've spent a little bit of time on Isle. I'm not much of a daily person. I don't know who is, so that's not exactly my home of choice. But I was there, obviously getting my legendary on Tuesday and pet battles and things.
Oh god, please. Yes, we had to add a section of the show just for that. So don't worry, we'll talk about pet battles. Anna, what about you? What's been on your plate since the launch of the patch?
I've been so overwhelmed. There's been so much to do. We don't raid on Tuesdays, so I got to spend all of Tuesday evening on Timeless Isle, and that was really fun because it's just so very different from anything else that I've seen before. It's like not your usual daily zone, and that was pretty enjoyable. Then we went in on Wednesday and Thursday and did some raiding. We're 13 of 14 now, so we haven't quite got Garrosh down, but we have enough pulls on him. Had a pretty low % wipe, so I'm pretty confident for us on Sunday evening. So we'll be done with normals, and it's just been 14 bosses all in the same week. It's so overwhelming, and there's just so many that have been a lot of fun. I'm really excited for this patch, and so it's been a great week.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was going to definitely make sure to touch about real quick, too, is that even though there's like that curve where everything gets a little more difficult as you go along, because there's like 26 eye levels of difference between the first boss and Garrosh on normal anyway, a lot of the bosses are just kind of fun, though. Like, watching PTR testing for Siegecraft or Black Fuse, I was like, this fight's going to suck. And then I get in there and I'm like, can we keep wiping? This is fun. Can we?
Yeah, Siegecrafter is definitely the standout the standout boss fight, especially for melee. I mean, we put mostly melee on the conveyor belts, and every single person who I was streaming it for my guildies who were sitting out, and everyone was whispering me like, I have no idea what's going on the platform, but that looks like a blast. It's awesome. That fight is great. It's going to be nuts on Heroic. Completely nuts.
Yeah. There's a lot of fights that I think are going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt, if you know what I mean, on Heroic so far. Just a little bit. Just because
I
of...
was imagining like
crazy as well.
Well, I mean, we don't have to worry about Garrosh. He has an entirely extra phase that Blizzard confirmed. He has a phase 4 in Heroic only mode, which is fine. But I'm thinking of fights like Thok with the bats and the Yeti and the whatever else the hell. Like, come on now, Blizzard, really? All that other crap. And the giant dinosaur dragon elemental dude. So, yeah. It's going to be fun. But I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely looks like a great zone. I mean, just going through it this week there's so much else in patch 5, 4, and 4, but all I can think about is just the raid.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. Even though I saw almost all of it on PTR, just going through it from start to finish was a blast.
Yeah. It is. It definitely feels good too. And technically it's almost like 3 instances in one because we had that
it with the different sections.
Well, yeah, exactly, because you start out and you're in the Veil, now the Veil of Eternal Sorrow, I guess you should call it, because it's exploded, right? And you start out there for the first 4, and then you go into the outside of Orgrimmar, raiding it, and then you're like in Orgrimmar proper, and then you go into Ragefire Chasm for pretty much like the rest of the raid. And it feels like, because I know there was some whiplash at the first start of the expansion with like the 3 separate raids completely, and that was like, blah, blah, blah. But now they just kind of put 3 raids in one and said, there you go, is this better? You know? Which I think it works really well, because it one instance with 14 bosses, kind of like how Throne was, it kind of felt stale after a while because you're in the same place. same architecture. Everything looks the
Throne
same.
was a little different. Throne, there was some
Well, you had
variation with like the cave area.
That's true.
and
You're right. I'll take the cave. I'll take the cave.
What could be more
Militia's
fun than doing
platform was
Torta?
like in Egypt.
Oh, that fight. I didn't even.
You didn't have to kite tank it in progression. I've
Nope.
never done anything more horrible in my life.
Yeah, tank it.
Mm.
Well,
since you brought up the Veil, that
Yeah.
just logging in at 5.4, that was so moving to me to see the Veil destroyed. That
Oh,
was
man.
such a success in terms of just storyline and
Yeah.
gameplay. And I knew I'd seen it on PTR for weeks, but I can't help but comment on it. Just I love the Veil of Eternal Blossoms, and to see it just completely ripped apart by what Garrosh did, and all
Yeah.
of my quest givers that were my 30 coins when I was short on coins. Just
oh god, those
gone.
coins. Ugh.
Ah.
Well, technically they're not gone. They're just inside the instance now.
Well, yeah, they're inside the instance. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with the thought of story, although I play Alliance now, and seeing the return of Gammon as an NPC in the instance is it's amazing. The way that they so fantastic. The way they burned into the Nazgrim fight.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that. It's like one of the better Easter eggs they've ever put in.
His chat, his dialogue was pretty troll. I thought it was pretty great, honestly.
Oh,
for him.
yeah.
And trying to get the achievement actually is going to be kind of a thing, because he does get screwed up in that fight. It's going to be not super easy to get him and stay alive throughout the Nazgrim fight. So definitely do that on Flex. But we can keep talking about all this stuff generally, but we're going to jump right into our first major topic here, which is going to be the Timeless Isle. Now, I know we just touched on it a little bit, but we're going to dig right in here and break down all the different things on the Timeless Isle. And the biggest thing I think that Blizzard has done here is that they've kind of tested out these bits and pieces along the way. Like, they've done daily hubs before, right? They did the changing daily hub in Firelands, right, where not every day is the same daily. Okay, cool. They started out with the not super oriented dailies, but kind of farm oriented, kind of random encounter stuff with the barons, and that's like a step in the right direction. They kind of put it all together in the Timeless Isle, where you've got, it's not super daily oriented. There's only like a quest chain you do for a Bronze Dragon dude. There's not dailies outside of like looting the chests. There's no flying, so you have to really run around unless you get on the Albatross. That's flying. And the random element is that every day you go there, it's always going to be a little different. When NPCs are up, when rares are up, how many people are out there, if they're doing raid bosses or not, if whatever. So I think they've really culminated all of their daily stuff into one place. So what do you guys feel about the overall impact of the Timeless Isle that it's had on us? Who wants to take that first? I'll leave it open.
Well, I've really enjoyed the fact that the Timeless Isle represents a completely different kind of gameplay than I think that we've ever seen in WoW before. I mean, I love that they're experimenting with introducing something new with every big content patch. The Isle that the Thunder Isle was really cool for me because I really appreciated the scenarios, like playing through the story. I know it wasn't really popular for everyone, but I thought that was really neat, like progressing through the story over the course of several weeks. And then the Timeless Isle, they didn't just repeat that, they brought something completely new, like a sort of free-form exploration sort of feel to it. And I have to admit, it's not really my thing in terms of my gameplay, but I love the fact that this is something that I haven't really seen in WoW before. There's some jumping puzzles, even.
Yeah.
I remember doing them, and I was like, well, it feels like I'm playing Guild Wars 2, except that, the engine is perhaps 10 years older. But I love that they're playing with it. They bring something fresh and new for us to see, and that's really exciting. At least for me, that's the most exciting part of the Isle.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I like that as well. I also like the fact that there are some dangerous parts of the island. I like that they're charging mobs that'll hit you for 400k stuns. That I enjoy.
Yeah.
I always liked elite soloing. I liked it around various areas in Vanilla WoW. The such. I really enjoyed that back then. Takes a special kind to enjoy that. I get it. But I also like, and it's very minor, but I like the fact that I can be on a main that's 550 item level or what have you, and be out there farming, blues and greens for a character that maybe isn't 90 yet, or is 90 and is just like a garbage pail kid with no gear. I like that.
No, the garbage pail kid
Nice.
comment. I love it.
Yep.
That movie is so. Oh my gosh. I think just before this gets any more out of hand, I'm going to switch screens real quick here. Llarold, do you want to drop and rejoin the call real quick?
Yes,
that might
please.
help you out. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because we're getting some confirms on the robot, and I don't want to.
Robot Llarold. Just a
Robot
little bit.
Llarold. Yeah, I know it's totally fine, but I just want to make sure
He's
it
like
clears up.
hedonism bot over there.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, guys. I didn't want to be a robot.
Yeah, it's
You
still
sound
it's
like a new and improved robot right now.
Well, you know what
Yeah.
they say, the best tanks are robots. They never make mistakes.
that is
That's what he must
true.
be.
Maybe that's why he. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. All
The
right,
suit
Emily.
is just too much awesome.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
I'm impressed that he's still wearing the suit right now.
Yeah. If
Haven't
you're
gotten
listening,
hot yet.
if you're listening to this on the archive, then and you have no video, you can't see the suit. So you should be here for the live show, or at least watch it on YouTube, one of the two, because you got to get that suit going. But I think you're still a little robot-y. I don't know what the problem is. Hopefully it clears up.
So sorry.
Yep. So then, yeah. Anything else, Emily? I knew you were up next about the Timeless Isle.
I was not a fan of Isle of Thunder in general. I would just go through, the scenarios as necessary on my alts and whatnot, and I was not a fan of the dailies. In general, I don't like doing dailies that just, especially when there's so many of them and all these different hubs, especially as a healer, and running around and doing them as like a disc priest, it's not fun. So with Timeless Isle, I enjoy it a lot more. I like just roaming around and just the little things of like, being able to open a random chest or a crane's nest, something that simple.
Yeah.
I find more enjoyable. I also really like the celestial bosses. I feel like those were pretty well designed, and Ordos, I guess, Loot Pinata, can't really say much about him other than the fact that it's interesting that you are required to have the legendary cloak in order to kill him, or I guess get to him.
Get to him, yeah.
Yeah. I think that was interesting.
Yeah, I think we'll just might as well bring it up now because you're going to end on the Ordos topic. We had that at the very end because I felt that he was definitely, I have it on here, the Bridge of Khazad-dûm being the gating mechanism. Because I think it's pretty cool that they put this mechanic in there, right? Where you need to culminate your Legendary Cloak quest and you get access to a Legendary-only boss, right? Where they pitched him up as being this incredibly hard world boss because he drops basically only Warforged normal gear, which is a pretty huge upgrade over a lot of things. It's a big jumping stone off of like the LFR or the Flex, right? And it's kind of free every week. But he doesn't really do anything. He has a 5-minute hardened rage where he blows you up in 5 minutes, and the room fills up with the fire. But I think for any 25-man group, you're not gonna have a problem with him at all. I just don't think I think they've missed the bucket, missed the ship on that one.
Missed the boat? Is boat
Missed
the word you were
the
looking
boat.
for?
B-O, and then I hit bucket, apparently. I don't know what happened to me.
I spell bucket with those.
Yeah?
I'm just grateful that it's not another
Robots can't spell.
Undasta,
Yeah?
because Undasta, it's so hard to organize trying to kill a world boss. It's practically impossible if you want to follow mechanics and whatnot. So I feel like the only way you can do it is by, hey, making this a loot pinata.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of a boss that only drops Warforged loot, and if you are going to make it be that, I certainly would like it to be a little harder. But you also have to have a boss that, is easy enough to be beaten if you're trying to PvP at the same time. So I understand, they don't want it to be impossible to kill. Certainly things have to be accessible.
Sure.
To some degree. I mean, there is a cloak. But, I don't know. I think it was a little disappointing. Am I still a robot?
You're clear, but you're still a robot. Yes, you
Still a
are.
robot.
Sorry.
We can at least
You're-
understand what
You're not stalling now, which is interesting why that was happening in the first place. But
Better?
oh man, there's some chat going on right now.
See, I
So,
feel
yeah.
like the problem with a world boss is controlling access to that world boss. Because back in the day, in the days of world bosses back in BC, the access control was through information. Basically, just there weren't the huge numbers of hundreds and hundreds of people trying to pull these bosses all at the same time as there are now, because everyone logs in on patch day and they know exactly where the world boss is, and they're all going to go there and compete for the tag and try to crash the server. I know Undasta prior to his nerf got a lot of talk about how he was too hard with lots of pugs around. Well, Something Wicked actually 15 manned that boss. We have a video somewhere of us 15 manning it in the middle of the night sometime when we managed to pull it without anyone else around. So he really wasn't that hard for a coordinated group before they nerfed him. They only nerfed him because you couldn't control all the people around you, and they decided that I guess it was more frustrating to deal with the people all around, and that making him so hard that he would wipe you if you weren't coordinated was a failure, because people would just corpse cannon. And so I feel like with Ordos, they've tried to control access by making it only with the legendary cloak, but then it sounds like they've failed at making him difficult. I actually haven't killed him this week. My guild did it without me, but every single person that I've spoken to has told me that he's just a joke.
So you didn't get a potential neck piece.
He's just not as difficult as I thought it sounded like. And with 5.4, Blizzard did the first like patch preview video that Lore voiced over it, and I wonder where he got that idea. Riot, League of Legends. But it's a cool thing to have, and it's definitely a great hook that League of Legends have been doing for a long, long time. So Blizzard picking it up is a great idea. But even Lore posted it like an incredibly difficult raid encounter that's gated by our legendary cloak, and I was like, all right, maybe he'll actually be difficult, right? You can't just flat out pug him. I did it on my 491 terrible prop paladin today. No probs. Like 28 people. No big deal.
All he does is a little bit of AoE fire damage, and then if you don't have enough DPS to kill him in 5 minutes, like, you know, that's not particularly challenging.
No.
I can barely even remember killing Ordos. Like, it was that simple, that like a straightforward, that I don't even remember him.
Yeah, that's probably the only big disappointment I think about the Timeless Isle. Everything else like that was really good to go. So then we have So you think it's a good change of pace though, that the island isn't an actual just daily hub like the Throne of Thunder had, or you know that Firelands had, or whatever? Do you think it's not forcing you to do this, right? But it rewards you greatly for doing it. Do you think that's the better way to go about these kind of areas, and hopefully we go for that in the future without like scripted dailies you have to do every day because of the rewards? You can just kind of go at your leisure and almost get more out of it than a flat daily zone. Do you guys think it's a little better?
Oh, I definitely think it's better. It promotes way more exploration than there was on the Isle of Thunder. Certainly there's just a lot more going on. Things like the weird random consumables off of different mob types that aren't even required to be used on the island. That's really one of the most clever things about that, is there are items that can root people in place, or put a 90% healing debuff on a target, or give you 10 seconds of stealth. That's super weird and just interesting, has interesting implications for world PvP, which is what it is.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's true. I guess we didn't even talk about that at all, too, is the implications of how the Isle feels with world PvP. Because I'm a PvE server person myself. But I guess that probably is a huge... On top of the bloody icon thing you can get to be a servant of Ordos, I guess, that even amplifies that zone. If you find one of the relics and you get like the huge knockback or the giant like 1 million damage charge, yeah, I bet that would be pretty interesting on a PvP server. But what else do you guys think about the Timeless Isle, though? Anna?
Well, I mean, as I said, I think the most exciting thing about it is the fact that it's a little bit different. I'm not sure if I would be nearly as excited if the next new big thing that, I guess we don't have any more major content patches coming in this expansion, but if they just went with the same thing every time, then that would be a little more boring for me. But the fact that they had like a daily hub, and then they had this like open-ended exploration thing, it's options. I like more options, and that's the benefit of the Timeless Isle for me, is that it represents a different kind of gameplay. I mean, like I said, it's not really my favorite kind of gameplay. I'm not really a sandbox exploration type, but I love that it's different, and that the game has that in there, and I can do a little bit of it, and it's not the way I'd usually play the game. But I don't know if I'd say that I want every future like daily hub to be replaced by this kind of thing. No, I think a mix is great. I think
fair enough.
They had a lot of good stuff going on the Isle of Thunder, and I don't think that Timeless Isle being a success means that the Isle of Thunder was a failure. I think both of them succeeded in their own
No,
ways.
no, I agree with you totally. I actually, I guess I misspoke there too because I skipped the Isle of Thunder and like the progression of evolving. That Pokemon Mega Evolutions right there, evolving the daily quest scene in World of Warcraft, right? So, Throne of Thunder started out kind of fun, and then eventually though it kind of gets annoying once you get the whole island unlocked. You do like 2 here and like 1 there and like 3 up here and then 2 in the middle and then 1 over here on this corner and then 2 up there at the top. Like it was fun when the first couple times you did it, but when you like go out to the farm, you just it takes a lot longer to do the travel time and mobs you're looking for and just disbursement of going through the different areas, which is fun to tell the story, but eventually even those systems get kind of like, which is what I think they improved on even more with Timeless Isle, because now it's just you go wherever you want. There's not a carrot pushing you around, and I think it definitely the options is definitely good, and I think they've really helped broaden their whole daily quest sort of I guess thesis going in forward into the next expansion.
Sure, and not to go too far down a rabbit hole or anything, but I think you said something that's very smart. Just in general across the board, options.
Yeah.
Options is good.
I like to point out
Options
Llarold
are fantastic.
Clear
Progression.
the bell right now.
Oh yeah, what did you do, Llarold? The robot
he,
is
like looks clear.
Yeah,
and
look at that.
Sounds clear. Like, oh my god.
Look at
A whole
him.
new
I-
man.
He looks so good.
I'll tell you what I did. I said, "Oh, Comcast, you're making me look like a jerk right now," and then they
It
felt
fixed.
bad.
This is
and
the
decided to
real
fix it.
Llarold.
The one and only. Still pale, still unattractive and bearded, but
Clear as
very
day.
clear. Exactly. I know. You had 2 weeks in a row where you had people appearing off camera, and I'm sure all the mobs and minions are wishing you'd had a third.
Oh, uh-oh.
That's
Yeah?
not true at all.
No,
Then
it's
we'd
not
be missing
true
the
at all.
suit. We'd be missing
That's
the suit.
right.
Yeah, where would the suit be? I mean, I can only put
In the
so much
closet.
deep V on, so I could technically wear a suit. I do have 2 different ones actually, the cosplay Alucard one and then my actual real one. So either one's, but
Suit.
I did want to point out with the Isles, I felt
Sure.
like Isle of Thunder was mandatory to go there, you know,
Oh, sure.
to get to the instance even. With, you know, the Timeless Isle, it's very voluntary. I don't even need to go there, like, grudgingly get to the instance. It's so far away, because they like to put things in freaking Egypt all the time. So, so I like that it feels voluntary. I don't really need to fly out there, you know, for doing a Siege of Orgrimmar, that it's very close to, you know, the
everything basically. It's
shrine.
close to the shrine. Even though someone made a post on Reddit, one of those "Go Home Flight Masters You're Drunk" posts, because if you do the flight point that's closest to the Isle straight from the shrine, it goes like directly there. It goes down 1 and then straight across. But if you do the one more over, which is to the Isle, it goes like down, up, back down to the bottom one, and then over. Like it takes a whole other route. And I don't know.
Nice.
I know there's I know there's a blue post a while
It's
back
first
about
world problems right there, Bay. First world problems.
first world problems, but Blizzard likes to have kind of like scenic flight points to new zones kind of like deal, and they like to connect
wanna get
hubs that
fancy.
aren't. They like to connect hubs that aren't usually connected by other places, and I understand it, but it is still so awkward that you look and it's like, oh, let's go straight there. Nope.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ellumina that I think probably the best single change in this patch compared to 5.2 was putting the instance near Shrine. I understand they wanted us to
So
be
good.
back out in the world again, but it's so nice to be 1 minute away from the entrance of the instance whenever you hearth. That's great.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And
So great. Like her thing, like, oh yay, I can just like fly over to the
Mhm.
instance. I don't need to bug my warlock.
Yeah.
exactly, and they've already given us an enjoyable and interesting reason to go explore the world with the Timeless Isle. It's still fun to go explore, even though we don't feel required to go out there to do the raiding instance. So it's nice. You are exploring purely for the sake of exploring, rather
Yep.
than because it's Tuesday and you know.
I need
let's
my
get on our
need my
Exactly.
coins. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to spend 30 minutes getting to the instance again.
Yeah,
I'm on
that's true,
Bleeding
too.
Hollow Alliance, so I'm gonna get killed 30 or 40 times.
Oh gosh,
So.
that's true.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing too. You're talking about getting griefed and dying on islands. I know it's different for PvP servers, but so the new world bosses, like the regular ones, the loot pinata ones, the Celestials that you need to kill for your cloak, and I'm not gonna all their names on the top of my head. I'm not gonna do it because I'll probably slaughter it. I know it's Chi-Ji,
Do it.
Zuen, Nazao, and Yulong. Bam, did it.
Woo.
Ooh, there you
And
go. 10 out of 10.
they're all in the middle, and you pull one and kill it, it kind of round robins to the next one. They all go like on a carousel. Unless you pull it and reset it, then it resets to the next one, which is fine. That's fine. And they remove that stupid wall that did nothing at the top of the stairs. Because you can just drop in and jump over the stones to get in and out anyway. So that was kind of
I could never
foresight.
get out. I would just get stuck and wait for it to die again. I couldn't figure out how to get out. I'm terrible with jumping.
But so
Jumping is my weakness.
how do you guys feel that the Celestial Tournament worked out? Do you think that it's like worthwhile to actually just jump in there and kill one a week now for your ults or whatever? Do you think it's cool to connect you to the bosses, or is it just kind of this weird, griefable, because it is, mechanic with trying to get your world bosses done?
Well, I think it's the same problem that we were talking about before with world bosses. The problem is, how do you control access to these bosses? And you even saw that at launch when they hilariously put a wall where the stairs were and then forgot to put walls all the way around the rest of where the Celestials spawn.
Yeah.
And I know that they hotfixed that shortly thereafter, but you can see them struggling with the same problem, which is how do you control access to this boss? Are you going to make them a Zerg fest? Are you going to lock everybody in as soon as they pull it, and then if you all wipe, then you wipe, but you can't just corpse cannon it? And they kind of gave up again. They made it again just kind of a corpse cannon. And I know part of the issue was that on EU servers it was even worse. People were crashing the servers like old school Galleon back when he was spawning, and there were just so many people there. We don't even have any idea. There were so many people there that the servers were crashing. And I think it's a problem that they haven't solved yet in terms of how to do world bosses, whether they're Ordos or whether they're the Celestials. And you can see it because the Celestials, they're a joke. At least on my server, where getting the tag is not really a problem. There's really no challenge about them. The only challenge is making sure that you have a tank and a healer, and I solved that by switching to tank spec and just did them. So.
It's funny. I actually managed to tank GG without a healer. I like them. I think that they are good for what they are, which is really, really easy bosses intended to be doable with ults. And if Ordos had been quite a lot harder and really fit what he was supposed to be, and there was a nice dichotomy between super easy Celestial bosses, fairly difficult heroic Warforged dropping boss, I think that would be nice. But since there really isn't much of a delineation, they're pretty much all stack up and burn it down situations. A little disappointing, but I'm not too worried about world bosses as long as Siege is great, and it has been thus far. So it's a minor setback.
Oh gosh. Oh no. Yeah.
It's a minor nuisance.
Kael'thas,
it's a minor nuisance.
Yeah, I get you. I understand completely. And the last thing I just forgot about it. Is the player named Loot on Ordos. We forgot about talking about this because there's one of them in the chat right now. She's right. Her face is right there. She's right.
My face is right here.
Bam.
My face is right here.
So
yes.
what is it?
Spike choker.
Yeah, there you go. So what does it feel like to have? And technically, isn't it poorly itemized?
Yes, my very first comment when it was really funny. We were waiting on Raden while Omega, my guildmate who makes DBM, was sitting there adjusting DBM for Raden. So we were all sitting around, and somebody found the items, and I freaked out when I saw one that was named after me. And my very first comment was, "It's a hit neck," because we have like 12% hit in T15, and I know that's going to change, but seeing hit on it, and then I felt horrible because it's like the most exciting thing in the world to know that there's an item with my name on it in the game, and I feel like such a nerd saying it, but it's so cool. And then, like, am I really going to complain about the itemization? Really? But apparently I did. So.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it warrants saying, because I actually brought that up on the episode before, I don't remember which one it was particularly, that we brought up the fact that they're putting in these player-named items, and obviously Blizzard knows your main spec that you run in their game, but then I don't know if they do it as like a jab or just because they have their item roll system or they have to allocate so many different pieces of gear with different stat allocations on them for every tier just to fill all the slots. And that just kind of like what your piece rolls for. Like, I have no idea how the developers make these items.
Oh, no, I think it was on purpose, and the reason why I think it was on purpose is because do we really want the best in slot loot to come off of a world boss? No, I mean, I think it's a good thing. I don't want my best in slot loot off of a world boss. I want my best in slot loot off of the siege bosses.
Sure.
So I don't necessarily want the loot off of Ordos to be flawlessly itemized like haste mastery for paladins. I think it's okay. The hit was a bit of a, it's hit. We've got, the hit trinket last tier. Every paladin's running around with 12% hit, so that was kind of hilarious.
Sure. With those two-handers, though.
We've
and
got these
said
great
the same thing about his belt. He was like, "Oh, it's a crit belt," But I think that's okay off of a world boss, and it's cute that all the community members were Ordos loot. That was really cute.
We've got these great members of the community we want to honor. Let's give them some worse than slot and loot named after them.
But it's so good for, it's not loot for me. It's loot for the people who are killing the boss, and that's, a lot of that's perhaps their best shot at Warforged loot. And so it's not necessarily do I get my item, but it's the people who have been, out on it chatting me and saying, someone in my guild got your neck, or, someone's all got your neck. That's a piece that they're really going to wear and appreciate. I think that's really cool.
Oh my god, Anna's gonna
Anna's... What did you do, Llarold?
I'm sorry.
You spread the robotic plague.
I'll take responsibility for Comcast's many failures.
Oh no, the robot plague.
That I'm a plague of internet problems.
I mean, excited when I killed Ordos and someone got Anafielle's neck.
Yeah, you posted it in the
told
chat.
Her
yeah. It's still very cool. We're not gonna debate about that at all. Right? It's still really cool, but I do always wonder about how they build those things. And no, what does it say? Magdalena tweeted at us, and I tweeted back to him about the stream lagging. If you're experiencing stream lag right today, Worlds is happening for League of Legends. There's 400,000 or something people watching it right now, so you're gonna have some issues. Obviously, the chat room is broken. You can try popping the stream out. Right? You can try using a different browser. Or obviously just hoping. If it's too bad, hoping and praying. If it's too bad for you, we apologize. We can't do anything about it here. I have no dropped frames. We're running perfectly smooth over here. So you can always check us out. Obviously, this is a great time to plug the new page coming. So obviously you can go over to our YouTube, which is Final Boss WoW, which all of our social media stuff is on FinalBoss.tv. Super easy website. But now, going on tonight and tomorrow, we are building, finally, the MP3 only archive, where we're going to have the first 7 episodes, the pilot and the last 6, all MP3 formatted and all put up on the website and our iTunes page, and we'll probably have a Stitcher widget on the page as well. So if you wanted to listen to past episodes, or you preferred listening versus watching the archive via the YouTube page, which is obviously all this, or watching it live because of restraints, time, whatever, that's coming. It's been a while coming, and I know it's 6 episodes deep or 7 episodes in, but there's a lot of work to do. We found out we can actually do it with our provider without having to spend any more money. So it's obviously good. So that's coming. Sorry about it taking so long, but that's on the way for you guys, and we definitely love all of our mobs and minions. But to move on from that, bro, do you even flex? So with Siege of Orgrimmar, patch 5.4, we now have four difficulties in all raids now. We have LFR, we have Flex, Normal, and Heroic, right? So, if anyone was wondering about this being a video game or not, I think you know now. We have a difficulty toggle on raids, and there's 4 of them. Flex is the newest one. Flex will dynamically change the raid difficulty between 10 and 25 players based on how many you have in the dungeon. It sits between LFR difficulty and Normal, right there. It's a slight eye level jump from LFR, and then it's an even bigger jump, obviously, from Flex to Normal. It's a 6 to Flex, and then it's another 13 up, I think, to Normal mode. And then, of course, the next huge tier jump for Heroic. But it's awesome in the fact that you can do achievements in it. You can do it with multiple people. It doesn't have a lockout specifically, too, so if you actually want to go back in there and kill bosses for fun with other friends that haven't done it yet, or for achievements, you can do that. So there's tons of stuff that are about this, tons of pros and cons. But I'm going to throw this over first to Emily. What do you think about Flex?
I really like it. It's crazy to think that just I think it's 4 tiers ago, Firelands, that there was only 2 different types. There was Normal, there was Heroic. There was no LFR, now Flex. So Blizzard's really expanding and trying to reach out to more casual raiders and whatnot, and I think it's really great. For high-end raiders, Flex is pretty face roll, probably equivalent to what we feel is LFR, basically kill things, get loot. But I think it's really great for people who maybe skipped a tier of raiding and want to try and get back in, get some
Absolutely.
gear.
Yep.
And if we think about it, the flex item level is 540. It's just one item level behind Heroic Thunderforged from last year. So there's a lot of upgrades available to even the high-end raiders, people who are, basically maxed out on gear from Throne of Thunder. I know people who've gotten upgrades just from these first 4 bosses already, and I know it'll be great for tier pieces and whatnot. So I think it's really successful so far. Pretty face rolly for myself, but I really think this will go places.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to talk about too with Flex is the catch-up mechanic. There's tons of catch-up, obviously, on the Isle of Thunder because you can get free 496 gear. Pretty much, it's free. Or you can get 535 gear with a little bit more work, a little bit more farming with the Burdens of Eternity. So you use the Burden of Eternity on the 496 piece that turns into a 535, which is Heroic Thunderforged, or Heroic Throne of Thunder. So you've already caught up that tier. You're already backtracked. And then you can just easily jump in to Flex or normal mode with that gear. And it's a great way to, at the end of the expansion, jump alts forwards. You can play alts or whatever else. So I know the big thing about starting with Flex was that, Anna can talk about this, is that it's easy for the higher eye levels, but how is it at lower eye levels?
Well, I don't know. I feel like me giving my opinion on how Flex felt to me it's almost irrelevant because when we did it on PTR, they scaled us way the hell down. Were we all the way down to, I think we were down at 520 or maybe below that when we were testing Flex. But 520 and over 550 are massively different eye levels. So when we're seeing Flex, we're really not seeing Flex the way that it's meant to be seen by the people for whom it's their target content. So when I've been looking at how I feel about Flex, I've been listening to the people that I know who are running their alts through it, and it's awesome for alts because how do you play with friends on other servers with your alts if you really want to see current content? Well, your only option was LFR up until now, and now we have Flex as an option, and that is the #1 most exciting thing for me because I love doing cross-server raiding. And I really want to see Flex nail some content for friends that I have who really aren't super committed raiders like I am. Like I raid, 12 hours a week, and I'm pretty hardcore. And I have friends who just want to go in a little bit every week and have fun and clear some bosses. And they've had a lot of trouble with the tuning so far this expansion, especially Throne of Thunder. The first couple bosses were just, the dev said it, the player said it, everybody knows. Ordon and Council were too complicated, too difficult. And so to hear people say things like, I went into Flex and Flex prepared my raid, and then we went into Siege, and for the first time we got 2 bosses down. Like, that's great. That's exactly what Flex should be doing. And I keep hearing this stuff from friends of mine who are really casual, and I'm just like, this is awesome. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. So I'm excited about Flex. I think it's already a success. I mean, we still have to wait a couple weeks to see how it works out, but I think it's really nailing what it set out to do. So.
Yep, I think the one note that I had on that was the only big linchpin I think in that whole Flex being a success for Blizzard is that right now they have the blue post out there that I think they were replied to already, and it was about how easy Flex is.
Yeah, that's too easy.
Which is fine. Blizzard's response was pretty much tongue-in-cheek, saying it's only the first 4 bosses, and there's a pretty good linear curve going on. The
first 4 bosses are really easy on normal as well. I mean, we don't understand because we're going in between easy Valor upgrades and Thunderforged loot, especially for us as 25 men. The 3 of us who are 25-man raiders are going in almost completely in Thunderforged loot. Yeah, sorry, Llarold. Llarold's in a little less 25, a little less Thunderforged gear. Maybe 2 pieces, you said?
Affirmative.
But, we're going in with 6 eye levels for Thunderforged and 8 eye levels because they made Valor upgrades so less awful. And that's a huge boost over how we saw even Throne of Thunder in basically the best in slot loot. Yeah. And the eye level tuning for the beginning, even of normal, is supposed to be for people who maybe worked their entire way through Throne of Thunder and just got through Lei Shen. So they're not very geared. We're just going in there in way too high loot. Even normal mode raiders are going into the beginning of Siege in loot that is that is much more powerful than the loot that those bosses were tuned for. And so those people who say that Flex was really easy, I'd like to see what they have to say when the last 2 wings of Flex open up in a couple of weeks, because I think that they'll really get the challenge that they want right there. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that was my point, was that that's only the first 4 bosses. And like I said, they get gradually harder as you go deeper and deeper and deeper. So I can't wait for like wing 3 to open up and people be like, it's too hard!
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't we?
How garish Flex is gonna be like.
Nazgrim, the ads, how do you deal with the rage? It's gonna happen though. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I think it's gonna be interesting how that flip comes around, because we get the first ring of LFR Tuesday. And then we get the second wing of Flex the Tuesday after, and then the second wing of LFR the Tuesday after that. So it bounces back and forth between when you get Flex wing and an LFR wing. But I do think it's going to be interesting when we actually get deeper into Flex, and people will think it's too hard. And I hope not. That would be like counterproductive to Blizzard's whole point of this, but we'll see. Because I think it's going to happen. Yeah. What about for you, a Flex with 10-man stuff like that? What do you do, Llarold?
Well, in fact, we have sort of a unique situation, because even though we are a 10-man guild, we run about 12 to 14 people. So what we like to do is rotate people in and out based upon what's best for fights, and then what's best for gearing up after we've finished something for progression and we're moving on to something else. So that's something that's very nice about Flex, is we can bring the whole guild in, get everyone to see sort of preliminary mechanics. That's very nice.
That's very true, yeah.
Another thing I really like about Flex, it's sort of been... It's just, I got friends who aren't that great, and they're still my friends. I'd love to go play with them, but I certainly can't be doing progression with them. So that's nice. Another thing that I like is, if you assume that the bar for heroic is, up here, and sort of going up as you progress in, and then bar for normal is around here, I want this to be kind of where the average raider's, skill level is.
Sure.
Then down here, way off camera's LFR, and they put Flex down here. Down here.
Shots fired. We're Sparkugs.
Right. Well, rightly so. But down here is Flex. That is intended for a little bit less than normal. That means that they can sort of take the normal, shift it up a bit. They can take heroic, shift it up a good bit more. And they did this a long time ago when they made heroic and normal a toggle back in IC. And I like having more difficulty levels simply because it allows for more diversity of difficulty within the game, and that's great. I like the game being hard. It's more fun when it's really rough.
Yeah, there's definitely a good risk versus reward versus the heroic deal, and I think that's definitely a good way to put it too. Is that they can outside of the eye level base, obviously, with you can only go up by so much, but they can make the complexity when you go from LFR to Flex to normal to heroic a step up in each, right? They don't have to just raise the damage and HP or whatever, but they can actually add the mechanics in, and it feels like it's a good curve, and I think it will help people overall. For those of us that only do normal and then do Flex for achievements or Flex for our ults, normal to heroic will feel good for us, but it's because the backbone, the groundwork underneath that, the earlier, easier stuff, it can help build that transition. And I think it's really cool, too. I didn't think about that you can bring all your people into Flex as a 10-man raid. You can all see the fights. And then when you come in for your 10-man normal or your 10-man heroic, everyone has already seen them already. You don't have to worry about rotating and watch the stream or watch the video. That's really, I don't like that at all. That's a good idea. Yeah.
I really, really appreciated that aspect of it. It was very, very much godsend just for that, that I think wasn't really intended or expected necessarily, but very nice.
Sure.
Very nice.
I want to point out something someone said in chat, that if somebody leaves a Flex raid, you can still go on, and that's actually a really good point, because say you're doing like a 15-man pug and someone just leaves, it'll scale with it. You don't have to go back to trade chat and find somebody, unless if you want to you can, but the scaling is really great.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys here have ever organized raids, but I used to do it a long time ago. I'd put together an alt 10-man, and I think anybody who's ever led a raid or organized a raid or been in a leadership position in a guild would probably agree with the spirit of what I'm saying, which is the logistics part of leading any kind of group is 100% the most annoying and hardest part. It's just getting people together and dealing with it when somebody can't come, and dealing with it when you have too many people, and just the logistics of putting a group together of a very specific size when you have a rotating group of people who want to come, it's so irritating. And that's what Flex just takes out of the picture. And that's just really cool. I mean, I want to see how it goes. I want to see if it makes more people raid, because organizing raids is easier. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit to raiders all across the spectrum.
I did have one other thing to add. I actually recalled regarding the item level that Flex was balanced around. I got into it the first weekend of the PTR, and the first wing was tuned all the way down to 504 item level, and then the subsequent wings were 520. So that does sort of lead to the disparity in difficulty between the four wings is intended to be pretty significant.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to have this smoother ramp up because of what we talked about earlier. When you get into Throne and you're like, all right, here's Jinrock, and don't put him in the water, stand in the water, kill him, big deal. And then you get to Horadon, and you're like, oh. And it was a huge brick wall for a lot of people that even that was a huge brick wall on Heroic specifically, too. And I know that 10-man had an even tougher time with that, too. If you didn't have a Mistweaver, then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And that was a big problem. They realized that, and now I don't think that's going to happen in Throne. I mean, not in Throne, but it's going to happen what's Throne. It's not going to happen in Siege at all because of this step ladder that they're building as you go along throughout the instance. And I think you get to those certain bosses where you're like, oh crap! Like there's definitely a huge jump up in difficulty after Iron Juggernaut into Nazgrim. And then into the triple wing, right? And then even in Spoils is kind of like a setback. Like it's pretty easy. It's just fun to split your raid up in half, right? But then then you get to Thok and Siegecrafter, and there's a lot more going on those fights opposed to the first four bosses easily.
That was my feeling. I felt like the difficulty really ramped up a lot at the very end of the zone. In fact, it kind of worried me, and I didn't know if I knew that I couldn't really make that many judgment calls because of the gear that I went to go see the normals in, but I felt like the last three fights were way more, like a level more complicated than anything else that had come before them.
Sure.
So it was just my experience.
I still think Garish is really, I'm trying to imagine, just relatively casual guilds trying to kill Garish, and it's like, it blows my mind. I don't know how they would deal with the mind control, because that was a challenge for us, and not getting the whole raid mind controlled.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to see how that scales down as well, because that's easily, for those of you who don't know, when you go through the intermission phases on Garrosh, he gains energy slowly. And once he goes past 50 energy, the mind control mechanic, which usually just just mind controls you or whatever, you cast this breath of Visarge, and you'll mind control another person. But when he has 50% or above energy, it's an empowered breath of Visarge, and to break the mind controlled people is really, really much harder. And getting to that break point at 50% energy and above to deal with those mind controls is very, very difficult. But the previous at 49 or below is much easier. So I wonder how it's going to happen with Flex, and if they're going to just remove that mechanic entirely, or how it's going to work.
With Flex is that it has all the same mechanics as
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know.
They may be okay with him being more difficult. I mean, that may be the idea. Is that Flex? You are supposed to have a relatively regular group, perhaps with some people popping in and out here and there due to the ease of scheduling a Flex group. But you're supposed to have to work on Garrosh for a long time. That may be the intent. So,
it's possible.
I guess we'll see. We don't know. We can just guess.
Yeah.
I imagine it being a challenge for sure for casual raiders.
It just feels weird to me, at least with. I'm so used to having like definitive answers, but I guess it's a little different for the show. So to move on with some definitive stuff, what do you guys think about Proving Grounds? Now, I know we talked a whole lot about these a little bit in our little pre-interview we had yesterday, which lasted way too long. But so Proving,
it was just right.
It's almost like we all like to talk.
Yeah, Proving Grounds was something that Blizzard wanted to put in the beginning of MoP, right? They wanted to introduce this and have this running through the whole expansion, and they could add stuff to it or tweak it as it goes along, but I guess it just took too long. And it's a lot to do with Proving Grounds, and if you don't know what they are solo content. I think logistically the first true solo content in World of Warcraft, outside of obviously questing or dailies, where it's a slightly instanced version of you fighting with NPCs to achieve either tanking, healing, or DPS goals in bronze, silver, gold, and then endless difficulties. So it is up in the Temple of the White Tiger, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And it is really cool. I haven't done it myself. I'm going to be streaming it all this week. But what do you guys think about the Proving Grounds? Who wants this first?
Oh, I'll take it.
Go
I did
for
a
it.
lot of them. I know Llarold did a lot of them too, but I did a bunch of them on PTR. I have
Sure.
one big problem with Proving Grounds, and my only problem with Proving Grounds is that they weren't in the game before this patch. I don't understand how this whole idea, we've known for a long time that the one thing that WoW was really missing is giving people a stress-free environment with ramped up difficulty in which to figure out how to do anything other than DPS. Because, I mean, when you're leveling, all you're doing is DPSing, and then how do you figure out how to tank or heal? Well, you pop into a 5-man and you subject pugs to your completely new spec, or you figure it out with friends. And figuring out with friends is, what an MMO is all about. But just where the game is at now, the game needed this, and the game needed this a long time ago. And but I guess, Blizzard is all about like putting it in when it's right, and it's really
Sure.
right. The way that they've put it in is awesome. I thought bronze was easy. I thought silver was pretty easy, but I could see people who I saw posts from people who were less experienced players who were struggling and progressing through silver and then really proud of themselves when they got it done. And for gold, I think for all of the classes, you do need to understand all of your abilities, or at least most of them. You got to know how to CC for DPS. You got to know how to use your AM, or you are not going to live as a tank.
Yep.
And I think the fact that gold presents a challenge is great. And then endless, of course, us competitive people are going to love endless. But it's really polished. It's really well done. It's cute. It's funny. The NPCs joke a lot, and it's really great. It's a wonderful thing that they've added.
I don't want to cut you guys off, but I'm going to go back to me for just a second. I want to preface this by saying it's the only true solo content because there has been outcry against the Brawlers Guild, as it is a timed, forced, not consistent based on the bosses you're fighting, and it's also spectated. So I don't really perceive it as the same type of solo content, is because you're not really by yourself. Right? And actually, to really do Brawlers Guild very well, you need the buffs and stuff from other classes to really progress through it. Like, a lot of things are really fine-tuned in Brawlers Guild, where you really need the mastery buff or the 5% stat buff. Like, you need those depending on your gear level. And I don't think that provides itself as true solo content, because you need other people to do it. But in the Proving Grounds, you are by yourself with NPCs.
They give you buffs. They give you all the buffs.
Yeah, they give you all the
there,
standard buffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's what I just want to make sure that chat room can't talk, but they're going like, "But Brawlers Guild is by itself." I just want to make sure to stem the rage of people that can't talk to us right now, because chat has exploded. But so you guys can continue. Who else has Brawlers Guild? Brawlers Guild. Proving Grounds.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you can go. I know you've had a lot of experience.
Yeah, you have a lot of this, Llarold. Go
Yeah,
for it.
Llarold did the guides
put in-
for Wowhead, if nobody knows. He did the tank guides for Wowhead.
That is true. Yeah, put in quite a few hours of experience on the PTR messing with it, and I like the lessons that the Proving Grounds teaches quite a bit. It doesn't teach anything specifically about raid boss tanking, nor really should it, because that's so specific when you think about specific encounter mechanics like impales, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But it does teach a few basic things like pulling mobs off of healers, pulling mobs just off of healers as they spawn while you're already tanking mobs. That's a very important lesson to know. How to handle enrages, how to handle real spike damage, how to use crowd control and move. That's really more important to challenge modes than it is to raid tanking, but it's nice.
Yep.
I like it a lot. I think one of the nicest things that's sort of already been touched on is the lack of pressure for somebody who's coming in and really trying to learn it as use it as a learning tool. It's very nice in that regard that there is no pressure. If you screw up, there's no one to laugh at you or make you feel bad at all. And then obviously the endless mode is a nice alternative as well, where you can go over 100 waves, like a boss.
Yep, no, that's like the one thing I wanted to make sure you help expound upon that, whereas it is very much different than Brawlers Guild, whereas you can just do it at your leisure. No one sees you do it, only NPCs do, and NPCs tell no tales, so.
That's
But
right.
it is pretty awesome. I'll experience it all this week. I'm looking forward to it myself, personally. I want to see...
great.
I think I'll get up to Endless without much problem, but then I want to see testing myself to get up there and how to get to Endless. I know you said there's a feat of strength or an achievement for 30 waves,
Yes.
right?
That's correct. There's a title for 30 waves for each of them. The Proven Defender is the tank title, the Proven Healer is the healing title, and the Proven Assailant is the DPS title. So that one's pretty nice.
Oh, that's much
Probably
cooler
gonna have to
than
go
what they
after
had on
that.
the PTR.
The Proven Assailant, is that what
It
it
was
is?
the
you said?
Proven Damage Dealer for a long time, and that was just
Oh,
lame.
ew.
That was
that's-
just
Really
lame.
lame.
Ugh. I am the Proven Damage Dealer. Like, what is that?
Awesome. I have
Yeah.
to say
That sounds like a movie title, Proven Assailant, coming this summer. So,
Starring Jason Statham.
oh, God, please, yeah. I mean, because he
I would
can be
watch
at
it.
everything. Well, why not? Right? Is there a job to do? He'll do the job. But I think before Emily, you good on that? Anything Proving Grounds as a healer?
I think it's, first of all, it's interesting. Anna's a DPS, Llarold is a tank, and then I'm a healer. So we
Yep.
kind of get to cover like every part of this new patch. As a healer, I found it kind of just boring. I mean,
Oh, no.
Oh no!
I don't know. I just all these waves. I just get really bored after. I'm like, oh my god, my mana. That's the only thing I cared about was obviously my mana pool. I can heal for forever if I have enough mana. And as a disc priest, it's not that great just because we're not that strong with without gear. I guess is the way I kind of think of it. So I rolled through bronze and silver, and then gold was more like just literally staring at my mana bar and hoping for the best, and that hopefully the NPCs aren't just taking damage everywhere, because I'm not sure how they built Proving Grounds, whether maybe the group just takes more damage in gold, or maybe your NPCs are more are just stupider and just stand in things. So I had no idea how this is gonna go about. I didn't try Endless because I was already tired after like 10 waves. I'm like, I have to heal for people who want heal queues. I heal in dungeons and everything. I don't feel like just healing endlessly. So that was just my opinion. It's like I don't feel like healing more.
Well, that brings up two pretty good objections to Proving Grounds that people have brought up before. The first one is that it's not very balanced between classes, especially when you scale people down to, 463 that we're scaled down to? Not every class functions the same way, scaled down to 463, and
True.
some classes scale differently with gear. And that's been an objection that's been raised to them, although I think as long as you can get through gold in every spec, which you can, then I think they're fine. And the other thing is just that it's tiring. Once you get into Endless and wave after wave after wave, I mean, on one hand, you can say that that's part of the challenge to go through dozens and dozens of waves.
Yep.
But some people have asked for the ability to restart at like 10 waves before wherever you failed the last time. And I think that would be, I'm not sure if I would support that as a change to Proving Grounds. I think maybe we'll see how they go for a couple more weeks. But that's already been raised. People are talking about it.
Yeah, that's a big point. I guess I didn't mention that at first, that you are scaled down to challenge mode level for Proving Grounds. So the only real benefits you get from gear, like the CDR trinket obviously works. Your set bonuses do not work, correct?
They do not. That's correct.
Okay.
They're disabled.
Cloak doesn't work.
And then
Cloak is
the
disabled.
cloak doesn't work. But your biggest benefits, like in challenge modes, is your trinkets. Those are the biggest things that you can't really change a lot of, especially the cooldown trinket or the multi-strike trinket or whatever, or the amp trinket if you have that
Metagem
now.
doesn't work, correct?
Well, I would
Is it
say
legendary?
Yeah, I don't think it
I
does
don't-
work either. Yeah.
I don't know for certain if this is true on live because I haven't gotten one to test it, but the amp and the CDR trinkets and all were scaled down to 1%.
Oh, they just
8%
scaled down?
CDR.
Oh.
Very bad. I mean, I can't recall, but they were scaled down to,
I'd actually have to
I
test
think,
this
less than 2%.
because I have an amp trinket. I'm gonna test
okay.
this later.
Yeah,
Like, these
I
are-
don't-
Yeah, these are all things I want to test this week. So I just thought, because in challenge modes, the biggest help to you to get better times is trinkets. So
one
if you
thing,
get
one pro tip is that gems aren't scaled. So the Ghost Iron Dragonling with some cogwheels in it, some 600 stat cogwheels in it,
Yeah.
is phenomenal.
That's pretty good.
in there.
Nice.
okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I
the
think
pro
it'll be
tip.
really interesting to see all the min-maxing that goes on with Proving Grounds.
Yeah,
It'll be fun.
I wonder what that's gonna be. I know I brought up in our little pre-show chat yesterday about what are like some of the top rankings in Endless you've seen for DPS, healing, and tanking. And what was your tanking one that came up?
There's a tank who has 103 waves done, and he is head and shoulders above the rest of the tanks who are up on the. You can go look at WoW progress and have a look, but and that's like 110 minutes worth of proving grounds on just one poll. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's some dedication though. That is really
I would lose patience after the first like 10.
Well, I guess it's just different as a tank though, because it's the tank record right now, right? Correct. Yeah. So.
And I think when you're looking at how different classes are doing on proving grounds, if you're going into like the high ranks of Endless, you have to organize it by spec because different specs are going to perform in different ways. And so when I was looking to see how the Ret Paladins were doing, I saw that there were some Ret Paladins who had gotten pretty far, but they weren't like on the front page. But it's changing every day. I mean, the badge has only been out for a couple days. I actually haven't had any time to go work on it myself, so I guess we'll see after a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to take some time. Just kind of like how Challenge Ones came out first, and no one was like, well, who's going to get the best times? And now with the Feat of Strength tied to them now, two people are back in them again. So we'll see. Give a couple weeks, we'll see Proving Grounds rankings, stuff like that. That'll be fun. But I think to move us along, I want to take us a quick moment of everyone's time to tell you just a little bit about who helps make Final Boss tick and who helps put out all this content and helps organize the show real quick for you guys. Where, first off, we do have someone we're really proud to be working in cooperation with, which is over here at manaflask.com. Manaflask is where the community brews. They are an awesome website for the community. A ton of different articles and editorials, and there's us right there. Oh, there's Ragnar's face. And patch notes and commentary, really great streamers here on the side, both in German and English. Just awesome, awesome content right there. They got a video section down here at the bottom in multi-language stuff. But there is a lot of great content over here at manaflask.com that you guys can go check out. They had an awesome beta key giveaway for Hearthstone just last week or so. And I think it's all done but now. But so they do some pretty great giveaways, great columns and everything like that. You guys can go check out manaflask.com. That would be super, super awesome. We also then have, of course, bringing on to the show, we have Life in Group 5, which is the Resto Shaman perspective on raiding. And this is run by Vixen. She was on the show last week. And she puts up awesome, chunky articles here. She had the State of Healing game here in 5.3. She's also going to be doing a new one here for 5.4. So if you are a Resto Shaman or want to talk healing and talk the difference in your classes across the way if you do heal, definitely would check out lifeingroup5.com. Awesome website. And then, of course, there's us. Wrapping this all up here, we do have FinalBoss.tv where you can find all of our stuff here. And again, I said at the beginning of the show we were going to have the YouTube stuff, not the YouTube stuff, the iTunes stuff ready to go in the Stitcher app. So we'll have the MP3 only shows. And if you guys want to donate to the show to help us upgrade our equipment, right over here is awesome treasure chest here. Same thing on the Twitch page. You can see that there, and that donates right to the show. We do have a whole lot of things that I want to get in the process now. We figured out we could do the MP3s without paying for them, but not everything on the internet is free. And to upgrade our back end and to get this out to you and to continue making awesome content, it definitely helps if anyone wants to donate to the show. That would be super, super, super nice of you. Our mobs and minions are awesome. I wanted to also wrap this up with last week there was a little miscommunication with where that money goes. The guests that come on the show don't get paid, right? Apparently there's some rumor going around that everyone gets paid to be on Final Boss. That's not a thing, right? We're all community members. We all do this for it's our passion. All the donations go to helping grow and enhance the viewing experience you're seeing right here too. Getting the technology in that I can actually have guests pipe their webcams to me, so I don't have to worry about Skype, that I can improve the audio quality, that I can mix and balance things better for you guys, that I can do better encoding to raise the stream quality to 1080p. All those things are what donations go for, not to guests. We didn't pay Rignaros to be on the show, right? Like that's he wanted to be on the show because he wanted to be on the show. Just to clear that misnomer up there. Yeah. But to move on to some meat and potatoes, this is going to be the big chunky part of the show.
I like the word chunky.
I'm chunky.
I know. I like the word chunky today. Yeah. So.
Is that really supposed to get people excited? The chunky part of the show?
Well, hey, some people might like stew. All right, chunky stew, whatever.
I like a good stew. You can look at me and tell I like a good stew. Goodness.
But so Siege of Orgrimmar is obviously upon us. Heroic start on Tuesday. That's when the real progression starts. It's gonna be a busy week for a lot of us, but. The Siege of Orgrimmar is the first instance that's in the game that has 4 difficulties, which we talked about a little bit earlier. But it's also the first instance we've ever had that we're actually raiding a city that we live in. and I'm not a Horde player.
Some of us live in.
Some of us live in.
Just
Okay,
me.
well, if you just Emily on the show here anyway. But I played Horde for a little while. I did some old school raiding stuff like that, and I've leveled a Horde tune, right? But it's a pretty big deal. Whereas it's not it's not the Black Temple or it's not a Maelstrom prison, right? It is Orgrimmar. Literally, is Orgrimmar. So, what is it like to raid a player city? How do you guys feel about that? And we'll start with the Horde member of our stream first.
For me, when I first got on PTR and I was like, I got in. I forget which boss I was doing. I guess I was heading to Nazgrim for 10-man, and the first thing I could think of was, I'm in Org. You know, this is where I AFK all day long. So it wasn't as exciting to me to be raiding in Org, although on live I found it to be a lot more interesting. But I remember my first impression being, hey, I'm in Org again. I was just here. So I guess for me it wasn't that exciting. But I do like the environment of the rest of Siege and whatnot, and how they ended up doing the bosses, like with Galacras there being the towers and whatnot.
Sure.
So, you know, it's not exactly Org, but it's pretty close to home.
Well, I guess that's true too. I'll keep it on you for a second here, Emily, because I brought this up when I was doing it myself, and I'm an Alliance player, just to say it again. But when I did it, and I went in, I was wondering if anything actually happened to the Orgrimmar in the real world, right, in the outside of the instance world, if it looks like it does in Siege, because that's kind of weird storytelling elements, because we could actually see that impact, is that, like, you go through the Siege of Orgrimmar, and it's obviously very different, right? Like, the huge thing drilled underneath Rage of Fire Chasm isn't there, but nothing else looks different in Orgrimmar to reflect the actual raid. So is that kind of weird for you guys as Horde players?
I feel like there was something in Org, like Corcon somethings. I don't even remember what. I'd have to actually log in and go check, because I'm usually just bumming at the auction house.
Of course.
So
like you do.
So I don't know. I guess it doesn't weird me out really, but
In
part
the
of
raid,
me
don't we kill the auction house master? Is that him?
We can, yes.
It makes me very happy to kill some auctioneers. Yeah.
Yeah, we can kill a lot of the NPCs that usually live in the Valley of Strength right there in the middle when we're doing the Dark Shaman. We have to clear all that crap because it all pulls with them, basically. And it was fun, at least for a Alliance player, because I don't usually raid Orgrimmar myself, like PvP it. But then I really feel that it's interesting that the raid version of it is not reflected in the real world version. Wouldn't, like, the real world version look at least different to some degree? Like, wouldn't there be, like, battle damage, or the guards be around differently? Like, I don't...
Or those NPCs be dead, which is why I brought it up. Like, the NPCs that you kill, like, do they go away? Are they not in Org anymore?
No, they're there, right, Emily?
I wish I paid more attention.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're still there.
I know the auctioneers are still there.
Yeah. Maybe if they're... I think also what you're trying to go on, Anna, is that if they'd be, like, different NPCs now in there, because the ones that were there have now died, right?
Well, I mean, I think that would be, you know, you're making a big change to the world when you're going through Siege and sacking that city, and you make a really good point, which is that it's not really reflected in that outside of the raid game world that much. I mean, the changes in the game world were mostly in Vale. I don't know if there are a whole lot of changes in Orgrimmar, or if there are Horde players in chat, they should speak up right now, because clearly we've got no idea. We've got 3 Alliance players here.
Mm-hmm.
And then a Horde that only just AFKs at the auction house. So.
Yeah, apparently, you just AFK the auction house. Thanks, Emily. Great content on the show tonight. Good contributions. Yeah, I know.
I mean, for me, although I'm Alliance now, I did play Horde for 6 years, and it's nice to be back in the old city. I love seeing a lot of the familiar faces and then cutting them off. Like I said, I loved getting to see Nazgrim, because I liked him as a quest giver. I thought he was great as a quest giver in Wrath of the Lich King and then in Cataclysm. And then now being a boss, that was cool. I liked being able to go play with Gammon again, and this time not get charged in one shot like in early Cataclysm. That was nice. So, yeah.
All those things that you're describing about how nice it is are the reason why I'm kind of bummed out that I'm an Alliance player playing through this raid, because I don't have any of those connections. I had somebody who told me exactly that it was really cool that Nazgrim was a boss. You said he was a quest giver?
Yeah,
that's right.
I had to
Twice.
go Google him to see what it was that he did because
Oh, no.
he's not somebody that I was really connected to. Malkarok I know was in the books, and I'm a big nerd, so I read all the books. And he was a character in one or two of the recent books, like he was the evil like mastermind behind the scenes, and so killing him, like at least I knew who the hell that was. But I just feel like Alliance really got shoehorned into this raid. It was a Horde story. I know that Alliance were part of it, but it really just felt like Horde were the ones who were living it, and Alliance were kind of just along for the ride. And that really frustrated me because I did feel like I was getting half the experience. I felt really connected to the beginning of the raid because, like I said earlier on the show, the veil changing was really moving to me as a player who sat there for the last year. And so the very beginning of the raid was very moving. But once we get into Org, it's just another raid zone. And I know that everybody who plays Horde is having a completely different experience that they're emotionally connected to, and that kind of annoys me.
Yeah, I guess we're getting confirmations here right now from our Horde members of the Final Boss crew right now, is that in the Cleft of Shadows that you completely destroy during the romp down to Ragefire Chasm in the raid, you kill that giant demon that's in the middle there. All the Cleft of Shadows NPCs are actually still there in the real Orgrimmar. But there are demolishers in the drag, and there were Korkron guards surrounding Gammon.
That's right.
There's a little bit, I think. A little bit, but my biggest one was that why isn't all the fortifications and stuff up at the front of the base, where the tower is and where the Iron Juggernaut is? There's like nothing there in the real Orgrimmar, which is kind of like just drop the doodads. I mean, I'm not a programmer, but I'm just thinking like to kind of help reflect that when you go into the siege, why is Orgrimmar suddenly so different? Especially as a Horde player. For Alliance players, we never go there very often, but for you guys, I thought that was a big drawback for me, thinking like that it doesn't reflect what you're seeing. And you're seeing basically the death of your city and the rebirth later on, of course, but it's interesting. It's a very interesting topic.
It might be a future patch. Like, we might be seeing Org outside the raid, might be before the siege, and so that's why nothing's changed. And then perhaps in a future patch, we're going to see
maybe
in
5.5 if they have a patch there, we maybe there is hinting at there's that other cinematic that you get through during the Timeless Isle stuff where you get to see something happen with Garrosh. I'm not going to ruin it for you guys, but you see something happen takes place after the end of the Siege of Orgrimmar, right? I don't want to.
Let's guess. Maybe he's a big racist, or he's a
no. Well, no. I'm not gonna say it because people tweeted at me making sure we didn't do spoilers on this episode, which we're not gonna do.
Yeah, no spoilers. I want to watch it when we kill Garrosh on Sunday.
Yeah, it's super gratifying getting to go in and take him to task. That's very nice. I've wanted to kill this guy since Burning Crusade, really. When I was meeting him as a Horde, I haven't liked him since then. And I mean, I think he's been well written as somebody that we're supposed to dislike. So I like the way that things have gone.
Okay.
And I am fitting perfectly to the script where, yes, I dislike this guy, and I'm ready to commit a little regicide.
A little more.
Regicide.
I guess the actual Korkron Dark Shaman are sitting outside the throne room in real Orgrimmar. And apparently there's like one tower outside the fortifications outside of Orgrimmar, so there's a little bit there. Maybe, I think what Anafielle said is a good point. Maybe after this is over and we go into the new expansion, or the path that brings in the new architect for the next expansion will change Orgrimmar. Maybe it'll show it war-torn or show the dead fortification. Something, maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't happen at all.
Because the passage of time is really difficult in a game like this. Yeah. I mean, because
look at how long it took to fix Stormwind after Deathwing happened.
I know.
Yeah.
Those claw marks, though. So then, the whole thing of this, and then we'll talk about Orgrimmar a bunch here, but the biggest impact I think that we're dealing with here with Siege of Orgrimmar is that outside of any raid boss we've had previously, and I guess we've had Illidan, sort of, and we had Arthas, sort of, right? But they both like literally fell to evil. Like they were on that warpath, and they became those guys before World of Warcraft came out, like from Warcraft 3.
Oh yeah.
This is our first character we've built up to in World of Warcraft that we've all had in our way, either as an alliance against him or as Horde with him in some way. You've seen the growth of Garrosh, Hellscream, and the fall from Grace, and we're killing one of our own the first time. So what does that feel from a Horde perspective? We just kind of went on a little bit, but what does that feel like for you guys? And then we'll take the alliance perspective too.
I
It's.
didn't
Oh, I was
have
gonna give it to. I was gonna give it to Llarold, but Emily can go. Fine,
I'll
go
do.
for it.
I was like, wait, I'm the only horde one here. I have to speak up.
Yep.
I don't know. I
Go
just,
for it.
being someone who doesn't really follow lore, I guess I didn't have as big of an attachment to Siege and killing Garrosh as a whole. I wish I did. I don't feel bad for killing him. Like,
Just nothing.
I'm happy he's dead because from
We can replace him with a campfire.
strictly from a rating perspective, he was an annoying boss. So I'm happy he's dead.
Well, I guess
That's what I
I'll,
can say from
I want to make
a
sure
rating
we're doing the right thing here. He's dead, quote unquote. I'm gonna put that right there.
Okay.
Go one of those things, because I don't want to ruin it for people.
The boss
Because-
fight is completed.
The boss fight is completed. The encounter
Yeah.
is done. He has been dethroned.
Defeated the encounter.
There
He's
you
been
go.
dethroned.
Okay.
There you go.
But removed from power, removed from office. Yeah, okay. But nothing tied you to him feeling that you killed one of our own, Emily? Nothing?
I wish. I'm just
No?
happy. Like,
Does any horde player really consider Garrosh one of their own? I mean, let's be
Well,
honest.
I guess that's a good point too, because he kind of slowly separated himself from the horde and making his true horde in that awesome voice. But I don't. It is a weird point. Like for me, like on the outside in, it just felt like he was just a bad guy from the start. And I'm a big lore nerd myself, so I kind of watched this develop over the last 2 expansions prior, and I don't know. It kind of felt like he had it coming. I mean, he followed his father's footsteps and then it went over the deep end. Like, his dad was a bad guy, then he redeemed himself. But then Garrosh is like, no redemption. I'm just gonna go full on stupid.
From the point of view of the
Very much
encounter, I
so.
think they made it very clear that he was not just like a politically bad boss, but that he was corrupted.
Yeah.
They used the corruption mechanic throughout the raid, and I felt like that really made me feel as though he was not just like. That's why I didn't really get the feeling that I was sacking Orgrimmar, even though we were. The final boss
Liberating it, maybe?
was-
Saving
yeah,
it?
Perhaps the final boss was Garrosh, but for all of my complaints about how I didn't feel connected to the instance, I had zero problem with Garrosh being the final boss because he was corrupted by the old gods, and that was made clear in the encounter through all of the different phases,
Yeah.
and also through the corruption mechanic. I mean, that's what the little power bar is that you can see the energy that he gains. I mean, isn't it called corruption or is it energy? I don't
think it's
remember.
I
It
don't-
looks like it's corruption. It's purple.
It's purple.
Yeah, I
you're
don't
right.
think-
Purple is generally the warlock color, so.
Mhm.
And
Well, there's been such a long trajectory as far as Garrosh's personality and persona have sort of been throughout the entirety of him being a character from the Burning Crusade until now. And okay, so prior to Mists of Pandaria, we know he didn't really have any interaction with Shaw since they didn't exist.
Yeah.
And although he's been corrupted by the Shaw of Pride now, he really was a weak character before. And I don't mean that as a jab at writing. I think he was properly written and well written, but he was written intended to be just devoid of character. A coward. When we first meet him in Burning Crusade in Garradar, he is incredibly depressed. He refuses to repel ogre invasions into Garradar. And you have to basically do this for him and bring Thrall to Garradar to cheer him up. That's more or less what it is. You're meeting a crybaby
Yeah,
who needs to
yeah.
be cheered up. In Wrath of the Lich King, when he's standing by Thrall, he becomes this very angry, reactionary, really insubordinate character. At the very beginning of Wrath of the Lich King, he issued a Mak'gora against Thrall, which is basically a duel to the death for the kingship or the war chief.
Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's interrupted by the attack of Arthas on Orgrimmar. So that was a big moment in his history. Then in the patch 3.1 preview video, as we go into Ulduar, my favorite instance,
Yeah.
he's rude, he's angry, he's racist. He says to Bronzebeard, or says about Bronzebeard, "Bring me this dwarf so that I can look at the fear in his eyes." Not that I do a good voice, but
Pretty
No,
good. Pretty good.
uh,
Go
Pretty
for it.
good.
Yeah.
good
8
enough.
out of 10. Yeah.
Good reviews. Anyway, he says this horrible stuff about Bronzebeard, and then Thrall tries to silence him, and his response is that you're a weak war chief, basically. Thrall tells him that he is disappointed in Garrosh.
Yep.
Then we go into Cataclysm. At the beginning of Cataclysm, he issues a Makarah after Thrall steps down from War Chief of the Horde. He issues a Makarah again against Cairn Bloodhoof and kills him because of
Poison.
Magatha the Crone's
Yeah.
treason. Right. So we see this guy who is really, really angry. He's very weak and ruled by emotion. He's filled with hatred, and as we see, I have in my notes here for Cataclysm, the very first 2 words, all caps, super racist. He's insanely
Yeah.
racist towards non-orcs.
Yeah, he
He's
is.
way more aggressive than he was even in Wrath of the Lich King when he tries to fight Varian in Dalaran. He
Yep.
in Miss Pandaria, I have a quote here that I'd written down, says to Taranju, "I answer to no one." He's just this horrible, weak character who I think has been being built up, not for Siege of Orgrimmar specifically, but to take control and then be deposed. It's probably since we very first met him. And could there be some sort of redemption story? I'd love it. I don't know. I think he works very well. I certainly hate him, but he's supposed to be a lightning rod, so I think they've done a good job writing him.
Yeah, I talked about this in last week's episode too at the end, or actually I talked about it a bunch on my stream, honestly. It wasn't an episode, it was my stream. That this whole thing has been built up basically in the Prophet Valen has seen all of this already. He knows what's going to happen. And there's been little tidbits and drops from Blizzard about like the story that Valen has perceived and what Anduin Wrynn is going to happen and you know the backstory and all this stuff like that and when the Burning Legion happens. And the Lightning Rod comment really makes a good point because it does seem that Garrosh was he was a necessary evil to bring the Alliance and Horde away from the war we've had this entire expansion, which that's what Mists of Pandaria was built up for. The reason why the Shah came back, which the Shah are the remnants of the last breath of Yasard, who is an old god who died, right? Died. I think he really killed old gods. But, and that's the whole point, is that you usually need big events to really change perspectives, and I think he was a necessary evil based on the coming events that are going to happen here in the future over the next 2 expansions, which we've kind of laid out being like N'Zoth is the next one, most likely. The last old god alive on Azeroth. Once we cleanse the world of this, or weaken it, because we don't know what the old god's tied to the world, then the Burning Legion comes back, and we're like, oh, well, whoopsie-daisy. You know, so what we gotta do then, right? We can't have this war between the Horde and the Alliance anymore when a huge evil is coming. So it is interesting, though, that this whole connection with Garrosh and everything was really important, I think, to the developing story. Because people at first, when Mists of Pandaria came out, they were like, there's no real bad guy. Like, it's all kind of like side story and filler. But I think that was a ruse, because they definitely don't have any filler at the end here. This is all, like, really pertinent.
It's
For
very
what it's
clear.
worth, I did think Garrosh was going to be the bad guy from the beginning. Hoped, even.
Yeah? Well,
Yeah.
I thought that there might be the possibility of killing Varian Wrynn as well. Didn't really hope as much, though. And,
there's definitely some...
You could have done that with the Rathian storyline, I think, if you wanted to take
Sure.
out both leaders.
Well, yeah,
That was
that's
what I
again.
was thinking.
We gotta be careful with spoilers here. After
Sure.
you finish all that stuff and you go back to Raytheon, there is more with him, obviously, and
I don't know yet because I haven't killed Garrosh yet. So.
Yeah, exactly. There is definitely more with Raytheon, and his little thing is really cool. It's a lot. It's really cool, and it makes you think. Makes you think a lot about what's coming in the expansion, because they've laid a lot of little storylines in this next expansion that I think they're doing a great job of not keeping us linear throughout an expansion. We have so much that's going to happen in the future here, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Side comment from Twitter, Bay, I'm supposed to tell you that it's Orgrimmar, not Ogrimmar. I think we've all been saying it. So says Jim Cabine.
Uh-oh, I've
Said it
always...
correctly.
We're getting called out
named
on Twitter.
It's named after Orgrim
Doomhammer, yes.
That's
Orgrim.
exactly what he
Chief
said.
of the
So
Horde.
it's a little harder on the R, less hard on the G. Yeah, Og versus Org. Yep, you're right.
Org.
You were totally right. Yep, I just see that right now.
Of course,
It's
you gotta say
harder
it
on the
proper
OR.
We
Orc
got called,
voice,
called
which-
out. We got to do better, man.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you gotta have way
Lying
more of a
scum.
gravelly voice.
Yeah, and the Doomhammer is an awesome weapon in Hearthstone, by the way. Just putting that out there. Just a
Oh,
side
it's
note.
nasty.
Oh, yeah.
Buy it many a time.
Yeah. So then I guess on I led on that whole linear, non-linear thing with the storyline being linear. Now, the instances we've had so far have been very linear. And with Siege, they gave us a little bit of option, so it's not super linear. But like, what do you guys think about raids that are like Throne, where it's just 1 through 13 straight through? You have no delineation. But with Siege, you can kind of pick once you get to the room after. Is it after Nazgûl? No, after Spoils, right? You can choose either Spoils, Thok, Siegecrafter, and those are the rooms you have to clear before you do the last ones, right? So it's a little bit of non-linear stuff right there. I think it only really impacts heroic progression because you can choose a little bit more there. You can cherry pick obviously and skip bosses and just toggle back and forth, but for linear versus non-linear bosses, what do you guys think about that for raid design? Do you like a little bit? Do you like full, like almost Ulduar-esque, just whoever you want to kill, or is this a good mix of both?
Well, I don't know if they really had a choice with Siege. That Siege was going to be a very linear zone, and I know that if you watch some of the interviews that the developers have made about 5.4, they said well before 5.4 that they wanted to put more non-linear paths into dungeons so that you could choose the bosses, but there was really no way to go about it with this raid instance because you have to knock down the gates first, and then you have to go inside, and then Orgrimmar itself has there's a progression that you go through until you get to Garrosh, and they did a little bit of it with those 3 bosses that you can choose between, but how else would you have made Siege non-linear? There's really no way to do it.
Well, no, I guess, yeah, it's definitely true. And I think the one thing to note there, too, is it's very much kind of like Ulduar in that sense, at least the beginning of it, because you start outside, you have to kill the gauntlet, you have to kill the boss guarding you kill not XT, but the tank. What's the tank's name? Flame Leviathan.
Flame Leviathan, yeah.
He breaks down the wall inadvertently, letting you go in. And then you have those 3 bosses that are sort of linear. You don't have to kill the 2 sides ones. But I think that's like what happens in Siege. That's like flipped around. That part is flipped around, like where you get like the little bit of non-linear stuff toward the end, whereas in Ulduar you get in the beginning and the middle. So it's very much almost similar in that regard. But like I said, I do go with you on that one, that it has to be linear at least to a point because it kind of leads in together. You have to get to cleanse the shrine under the veil, right, of the corruption from the amalgamation and the Shah, and then you've got to go through and you got to break down the gates and you go through, but
I think my point is just that I think a lot of us would agree that a little bit less linearity would be good. I think the developers agree. I think most players say it as well. And I think we'll see more non-linear progressions through raids in the future because we all know, if you've read any of the blue posts or watched any of the interviews, that that's on the plate. But there was very little way to do it in this particular zone, is my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Anything else
I like.
Yeah. Oh, Llarold?
I was gonna.
Oh.
No.
Emily, go. Emily,
I
go.
was gonna say, in general, I like a little bit of variety. It doesn't have to necessarily be like Ulduar, but I'm just thinking back on like Dragon Soul or even just a little bit of variety where, at least for heroic progression, choosing one or the other, and I guess you have choices of where you can be focusing your heroic progression on. If say one is too difficult, then you can try the other out. Like options are always great.
Yeah.
Same with like Firelands, I guess. I don't think there was. I'm trying to think. This expansion was everything was mostly linear, correct?
Outside of the, say for example, the tier 14, you had 3 dungeons, but all of them were straight shots.
Right.
Literally, Terrace Endless Spring was 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was straight as you can go, right? You just go straight through the bosses. There was no delineation there at all. And then with Throne, 1 through 13, you couldn't because it was doors, right?
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere. So
I think the big linearity failure in this expansion, if you consider that to be a problem, was Throne, because they could have made it less linear, and they did not.
Yeah.
Especially, go ahead, Llarold.
I really like Ulduar, and I like that you bring a comparison to that, because one of the things that I really like about Ulduar is you can say, let's not do Thorum. Let's go do Freya, or let's go to Hodir, or let's go get killed by Memoron trash a whole lot.
Of course.
I really liked that it's this sort of, it's a combination of non-linearity, but gated. So you advance through this whole wing, and then you get to go jump up to the next 4th person wing.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to pick and choose your way through based upon what works best for your guild. Maybe you got a guild that just doesn't have great AoE or great cleave, and there's a particularly hard AoE or cleave fight. that may be easier for a typical guild but just doesn't work for you. I like being able to sort of set that on the back burner. But some of that also comes from back when hard modes weren't a toggle on and off switch.
Yep.
So since it is a toggle switch, it's not a major concern. I would say it's sort of a back burner concern.
Yeah.
But I still like it. I still like choice, as we said a lot. Options is good.
Yeah,
You know?
and again, I definitely feel like they've grown a lot during Mists. Just we talk about the daily stuff first, and the Proving Ground stuff, and Timeless Isle, and now even the raid. Whereas they went with 3 raids to begin with that were all linear, and people were like, meh. They went with 1 raid that was super linear. We were like, meh. So they were like, okay, this way is too much, and that way is too much. So they put 3 to 4 raids in 1 raid and put a little bit of delineation in there a little bit. So they've kind of like learned from both the first 2 encounters, the first 2 raids, Throne and Tier 14, and kind of like put them together with some silly putty and like stretched them out a little bit, and that's how you got Siege of Orgrimmar. Because there's arguably 4 raid instances in Siege, because there are 4 totally different areas you go through. So I think that you can definitely see how much they've learned over the course of this expansion. And it's really good.
I love the multiple biomes in a single instance. I really liked that. I liked getting to see the city again, but it was cool getting to hang out in a sewer level right off the bat. Haven't seen one of those in a long enough time. So that was cool.
That was one of my problems with Throne of Thunder, was just that the whole place, even though I know there were lots of different locations within the Throne of Thunder, it all kind of blended together for me. I know I thought that the beginning of the zone looked a whole lot like the end of the zone, with the exception of some epic rooms like Leishan's room, and that's not true in Siege. Every single location looks and feels like a totally different place, whether it's inside, whether it's outside, and that was a huge change, a great change in my opinion.
Yep. No, absolutely. I totally agree. All right. Totally agree. Well, to wrap up all the Siege of Orgrimmar stuff here, the show usually revolves around the people that are on the show as their classes. We talk about like specific things. We do Resto Shamans or Tanks or Warlocks. But to keep in spirit of the show itself, we're going to finish up here with actual class changes and things from these 3. So we have Priest, Paladin, and Monk. And we're going to talk about what you guys think happened, the pros and cons of 5.4 for you guys. So I'll kick it over to Emily first. So Priests. Good and the bad and the ugly with you guys.
Okay.
Specifically
I play,
healing. Yeah.
Yeah, I play Disc. I'm perfectly capable of playing both Holy and Shadow, but I mainly play Disc. My favorite change so far for this patch is definitely the Twist of Fate change. Its talent, I forget which tier it's in. Tier.
What's the talent
75?
do? I guess that's fine. Yeah.
Now it's like, once you damage or heal something below, I believe it's 30%. Let me just double check.
Yeah, you can pull that
you
up
get
real
a
quick.
buff that increases your damage and healing done by 15% for 10 seconds. Before, it was like, I think it's do damage under 15 or 20%, and now it's 30
Really low,
some
yeah.
35%.
35. I
Yeah.
can't remember the specific numbers. I'm terrible with numbers, but it's a huge change. I used to never use it really as a healer, except very specific fights. In particular, Megara, since the heads, there's the buff will proc at a decently high chance because you're constantly killing those heads. Those are the only situations, at least as a healer, where I would be picking it up. But now I find myself using it for every fight, and I'm just looking through several logs. And on Siegecrafter, my Twist of Fate uptime was 55%. So I had a 15% healing and damage buff for more than half the fight. And for Garish, I had 50% uptime, which is huge.
That's a lot though, because it's only damaging or healing abilities to target below 35% health proc that. So on the boss itself, you can't get that until you get to 35% on the boss, but it says or healing a target. So that's pretty powerful though. If you had an uptime over 50% of the entire encounter, just free 15% additional healing almost. That's pretty good.
And between maybe hitting some ads or something, it can proc.
Sure.
Hitting the I'll help DPS like the weapons down on Garish, so
Yep.
there's another easy way to proc it. So that is by far my favorite change so far for priests, and that works for every spec. So it's a buff to every spec. My least favorite change is probably every other priest's or every other healer's favorite change is the nerf to my spirit shell.
Oh, poor baby.
Oh no.
Oh no.
To 10 seconds. It's so sad. It used to be so significant in my healing done and whatnot, and now it does like some fights it's like a measly like 5% or something. It's really sad.
So what was the overall nerf to Spirit Shell then?
Spirit Shell lasted 15 seconds, so you had 15 seconds to like cast, all these shieldy things in layman's terms.
Prayer of healing mostly,
things.
right? Yeah, prayer of healing usually, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can get a decent number of casts off. So I could essentially at least hit every single person in the raid from groups 1 through 5. Now it's basically impossible. I don't think, maybe with Lust I might be able to hit every group. Otherwise it's not possible. I can't hit every group with that Spirit Shell. And
Yikes.
once you have Spirit Shell on you, it used to last for 15 seconds. Now it only lasts for 10 seconds. So
Oof.
it's a huge nerf. It hasn't affected my overall healing that badly. I still find Just Priest to be a strong healer. But it sucks.
Yeah,
It never feels very good to be nerfed, I know.
Is it? I always look at the big things now. That I think, obviously, our Dispriest that we had in the raid, like all this week, was almost top on every single fight, outside of like super AoE cleavy fights that Resto Druid's overtaken.
Because healing meters matter.
Well, yeah, because healing meters matter, but it's always different. Every fight's very different, and healing comp changes sometimes too. But yeah, I noticed that too. Whereas they were coordinating, usually you would Spirit Shell with like nothing else, but now they do Spirit Shell on something else with the rotations. Usually, like they'll have that in like a Tide or that in a Trank.
Yeah, like
whereas,
I can't use it as a real like CD anymore, and I can't depend on it.
I think it's trying to bring it in line with everything else because arguably tier 14 and 15, you brought 2 through Disc Priests and your raid never took damage.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that, but it definitely, as a throughput thing for a priest, it definitely looks like a nerf. So, but the Twist of Fate thing, you get more throughput though, but your cooldown's a little weaker.
That thing's
so
amazing.
yeah,
Twist of Fate
a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But so, how about Anna? What did you get? Let's talk about Paladins real quick here for a little bit.
Well, Paladins really didn't get all that many changes. We managed to sneak under the radar for nerfs and for buffs. I know there was a change from Guardian from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, and that just pretty much brought our burst down a little bit. But I think it's really cool that I get more frequent access to that cooldown. I would say that my favorite change, my absolute favorite change, is not really a class change. It's more of a it's a set bonus. It's my set bonus, my 4-piece. And the reason why I love the Retribution Paladin 4-piece is, A, because it's fun to say that I love it because so many Ret Paladins hate it, and so I want to convince them all that they're wrong. That 4-piece is ridiculous. It gives us a free Divine Storm that deals 50% increased damage, and by free Divine Storm, I mean it doesn't consume Holy Power. Okay. So Divine Storm deals about 70-75% of a TV in terms of just before you get this proc. So it was already pretty powerful against anything that's more than one target. And to get that proc where you get it at 50% increased damage and a free proc, it makes a huge difference. It changes the talent that we use. I think it's the tier 5 talent. We would use Divine Purpose instead of using one of the cooldown talents, which I think is exciting because I haven't spec Divine Purpose all expansion in my Ret spec, and I miss it. I miss some of the prockiness of Cataclysm. They threw it into a talent, and then we never got to use it because it was the worst talent as far as sustained DPS went. And now with this bonus, it becomes my best talent, and so I'm excited about that because it changes the way that I play. And there are so many cleave fights in this zone.
Oh, so 9 of 14.
Yeah, so many cleave fights, and so anything that right now in tier 15 gear, we actually can't cleave as much because our 4-piece right now procs off of Crusader Strike. So if we switch from Crusader Strike to Hammer of the Righteous, we stop proccing that set bonus as much. So we end up staying single target even if there's 1 or 2 other mobs around, well, depending on the needs of the encounter. So that's kind of boring. I really like cleave, and I'd like to be able to cleave a little bit more, and that's why I'm really excited for this bonus to come. I really want my 4-piece. I don't really have a worst change. I was complaining that the Paladins just didn't get a whole lot of changes.
Lucky.
The other major change was that Inquisition went from 30 seconds to a minute. And when I saw this change, I was like, oh, only bad Paladins are going to like this, because like really maintenance buffs are not very difficult. You know, everyone's always whining about Inquisition and how annoying it is, and I just never got it. I couldn't figure it out. So I thought that change was no big deal. And then I got on the PTR and I started playing with it, and I realized that it's really nice. It's a great change. You know, so that's also a pretty good one. I like that it doesn't make Inquisition exactly the same length as my cooldowns anymore. That was really irritating for me. I liked it better when Inquisition was 36 seconds. It was in Cataclysm for us, and that was more convenient. But so that's, yeah, all I have are good changes. I wish I could whine about a nerf, because I'm a paladin and it's kind of, you know, par for the course for us. But I don't have anything to whine about. Sorry. Maybe someone should tweet me and tell me what I should whine about, because right now I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. And then let's go to monks, specifically with brewmasters. Llarold, what do you have?
Right.
Pros and cons
Well,
5.4 for you guys.
Well, okay, so we got hit pretty much exclusively with nerfs in terms of our class abilities, and then we got hit with a lot of buffs.
I wonder why.
Rightly so. We got hit with a lot of buffs for our talents. And so what happened was we had a number of mediocre talents, things like Zen Sphere. It got buffed. Probably still not going to be used, but, you know, options are fine.
Oh, okay.
We had Key Brew, which was also pretty mediocre, and actually got buffed to being very, very usable. I probably won't be using it right off the bat in progression, but I will be playing around with it and see how it feels. There are a few other things that have been changed, in particular, just obviously the straight Vengeance nerf across the board. That was very necessary, and in particular the AoE Vengeance nerf was really necessary.
Yep.
Because tanking numerous adds wasn't scary at all. It does need to be somewhat scary. I don't like that it's as harsh as it was, but I actually do think it needed to be. There were a few others. Let's see. The Keg Smash nerf just flat needed to happen. We do too much damage. We were more than 10% ahead of Prot Paladins as the #1 DPS tank, and Prot Paladins were sitting very comfortably at a high #2 in terms of DPS at the end of Throne of Thunder. And that's problematic, not for Throne of Thunder progression. The tier was over. But for going into the next tier with one tank way outperforming everything else,
yeah,
that's an issue.
Yep.
There was also a really weird issue with, because monks have sort of this newer design than anyone else, where all of our weapon strikes are based off of our weapon DPS, so that's calculated as a mixture of our base weapon DPS and our AP. So since the very beginning of the game, since it first started, 14 AP has always equaled 1 DPS. There was a weird issue with Brewmaster monks where they were calculating our AP to DPS for our strike damage calculations as 11 AP. They were also taking a way smaller share of our base weapon DPS, but it still resulted in us, when we were in situations tanking Rod In, for example, something that gives lots of vengeance, getting way more damage. So that nerf wound up being around a 10% nerf to abilities when you're like way up in the 300, 400,000 range. And then because they also buffed the base weapon DPS component, it actually wound up being a buff if you're tanking normal siege. So on that end, that was just a good rebalancing change. I think the primary things that really hit tanks, and I think needed to, were the legendary changes, which I guess we can get into in a bit. But making the legendaries, the DPS legendaries, less desirable for tanks is fine. It needed to happen. But making the tank legendaries considerably more desirable and viable for tanks was really, really great.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
really liked that. And
Nice
also,
segue.
one other thing, Ring of Peace has an awesome new animation. Awesome.
Oh, what does Ring of Peace do now? Because it used to be just like the green dome, right? Now what does it do now?
It's a spinning white circle around the character. It still has sort of a green aura, but it's a really ornate spinning circle.
Cool.
I'm
Very
trying
cool.
to figure out if that's the ability that pissed me off so much when we were working on Garrosh. Yes.
It's
Somebody.
awesome.
We went through everything. We went through disarms. We went through rings of peace. For all of the viewers that haven't done Garrosh yet, like they said, there's a mind control mechanic, and getting yourself. Being that person who's being DPS'd out of the mind control and watching a ring of peace go up is like, oh, why are you doing this?
Well, yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's an issue right now with the mind control too, because if you're hit with silences, disarms, or whatever during it, it actually like doubles the duration after you come out for some reason. Because we had people that would come out of the mind control and still be silenced for more than they should have been, and we were having issues
happened
with
to me.
yeah, because we want to.
It really made me happy on that fight.
Yeah, we want to break out the casters really quick, but we break them out and they can't do anything because they're so silenced. So there's a little bit of when the transition happens from being a Shaw to being you again. That is not. I don't think it's working as intended. You know, I don't yet, but we'll see. We'll see if it's a hot fix maybe in the future. More people get to see Garrosh, and then when they get
There
more
were a
data.
couple of things I had meant to mention that I'd glossed over. Diffuse magic not being on the global cooldown wasn't listed anywhere in any of the unofficial or official notes that I saw anywhere. That's
Huh.
a huge change, having a defensive cooldown that's completely off the global. And they did the same with Zwin, where it's completely off the global. It used to just be the case that it didn't trigger a global, so you had to cast it right before you threw out a Tiger Palm.
Okay.
But those are two big changes. And then Rushing Jadewind was a really good offset. Again, it's a choice. You have to choose not to take Zwin, but it is an excellent AoE DPS increase that really offsets the loss of damage in AoE from Keg Smash. And so, again, choices are great. Choices is good.
Choices
Options
is
are
good. Nice
wonderful
grammar
things.
there.
Yeah,
Choices M's goods. Awesome.
choices is good.
Well, I think that's everything we have here. I feel really bad to end the show without viewer questions. We don't really have any that came through. We asked people to tweet at us with. You could definitely tweet at FinalBoss and then FinalBossTV, and then you do the hashtag #AskABoss, and we can grab those up there. But because we can't for the duration of the show. And don't send them to the email right now. That's the back to going through at the beginning of the show. That is down currently, so we're working on getting new emails up for that part of the show. So the best way to get questions to us is either just posting them on the Facebook page or send us to Twitter. And we will get to those as soon as we can, obviously, and we can save them for next show. If you have questions that don't potentially pertain to this show, or have questions for different classes, you can send them those ways, and we'll save them later. Obviously, that works better with the Ask a Boss document here on FinalBoss.tv. But check the Facebook page. When the Facebook page says, and the Twitter will also say too, when we have the new emails up, send away, fill the inbox up. We'll be good to go for episodes in the future. But that's what we usually do now. However, just because it's not working right well with us right now in the Twitter, and we do it with chat, but right now with chat it's not working. We're still going to be around for an after show after this, though. But just so we clear that all up, hopefully in the next episode in the future we have everything set up for the emails to get questions from you guys. But it has been an awesome show this evening. 5.4, not 4.5, the Siege of Orgrimmar came out. We talked a whole lot about it, and I was joined here tonight. Ellumina, Emily, thank you very much for being here. You can go follow her over there on twitch.tv, Ellumina. Super easy.
For having me, Bay.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Are you going to be streaming some of that Siege of Orgrimmar this week?
Oh, definitely. I'm going to be streaming all of Heroic Progression. Hopefully it's not going to be that miserable. But yeah, starting Tuesday, all Heroic Progression is going to be streamed.
Awesome.
I'll watch that.
Llarold,
Oh, hi!
the suit came off. It lasted longer than we thought,
right.
but
Certainly
twitch.tv,
did.
palm_strike.
That's
where you can
right.
find him. You can watch the monk tanking in the 10-man variety.
No visual overload there.
No, we didn't bring that
Don't
up.
remind me. Because no one wants to hear me rant.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anafielle.
And, go
What,
ahead.
Llarold? What?
Oh,
What? No.
I was gonna say, if I break 30 trillion viewers this week, I will wear the suit. Or whatever number is deemed appropriate. But yeah,
30
30
trillion.
30.
30.
I may put on the suit.
Well,
Anafielle from
30
Something
trillion.
Wicked. Where DBM come from? You can get her on the Twitter. She is super active on that social media over there at Anafielle. She does a lot of the stuff on the Twitters. You guys can hit her up there. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
I'm also involved with the Paladin blog Sacred Duty. I don't write for
That's
it,
right.
But I've been sort of on the crew for Sacred Duty for several years now, and that's where Thek, the theory crafting mastermind of prop paladins, posts very frequent updates 2 or 3 times a week, and so I'm always supporting him and working with him behind the scenes to make his blog really excellent. So check out Sacred Duty. It's sacredduty.net.
Sacredduty.net, absolutely. That'll be on the website here eventually in the future once we get all that stuff worked out. And again, I am Adam K. I'm over at twitch.tv/BayTLM. I'll be doing the same thing Emily's doing a whole bunch of streaming this week, actually. I took the week off from work. I feel like a European. Don't tell Sparkix I said that, but he'll probably find out anyway. But yeah, I took the week off for Heroic Progression, stream a bunch, get this stuff done. There's a lot to do this week for us Heroic Raiders. But for you guys out there, we love our mobs and minions. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight. We're going to do a little bit of after show after this. Hopefully if chat or Twitter works. Well, Twitter will definitely work, but if people want to send us questions, we'll talk to you there. And again, have a great night. Have fun raiding Orgrimmar. There you go. Get a little more. It's or, not ugh. So we messed it up earlier today. Thank you, Twitter. But from us here at the Final Boss crew, everyone else involved, thank you very much for being here. We'll see you guys again. This will be up on YouTube tomorrow. And again, the MP3s are going to be live in the next 2 days. So we'll see you here next week. 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. PST, and 4 CET right here on FinalBoss.tv. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. I'm waving.
Bye-bye. Look at that pretty man.
Ah.